One of the
That was an owl sound.
Yes.
I think it's
it's going, microphone's going?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's working now.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Did you?
People on Zoom?
Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Where's Kathy Peachy? Can you hear us?
Yeah, she's got some. There's thumbs up.
Okay, yes, you can. Yeah, you got it.
We're good.
Can you see it?
Oh,
yeah. Yes. Okay, would anyone from the public like to be heard? I see Aaron's hand, so come on, stand on the X, so everyone can see him.
Thank you. Aaron Dove, 51 Crestview Drive in Bernardsville. I have a couple of redevelopment issues I'd like to discuss. Number one, I saw the borough closed on the Audi lot up on 202. And I just wanted to see if there was still a contract in place with the, or if there was one in place with the distillery, whether that was still the plan with that property. Because if there isn't, I think, borough ownership of the property presents some interesting, possibilities, opportunities, maybe that we didn't have when we were just drafting zoning or a redevelopment plan. And I think, some public input on that might be something the council wants to hear. If so, second on Palmer, just, a little surprised or, wondering whether Mr. Zabo and his firm would be reaching out, some public outreach, some soliciting, public comment on the redevelopment plan he's working on for that property. When he was doing, or when the group was doing Quimby, they had, townwide survey, there was, open meetings of the redevelopment committee, people could stand up and give their thoughts, and I think, that's how we ended up with, a good design, the European Village with the pedestrian streetscapes and the Mine Brook, Greenway, all that. I think, that would be beneficial here as well. I think that, the more public input you have on the front end, before it comes before the council, then, there's going to be a greater sense of buy-in and, public ownership when it comes before the council for, adoption. So those are my two questions and just my thoughts on this.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. And the Audi dealership, the distillery, is not happening because the ABC changed the rules last minute. But we are discussing in executive tonight some alternatives, so we should have more information.
Do I have any time left? Do I have any time left? If I admit, the only, a couple of ideas that I was thinking, I mean, like, there's for years, I guess, whenever it comes up, there's been a couple people suggesting, a downtown park, a green space. I don't know, it's a lot of money for a park, but I think, if people want to advocate for that, they should, be heard and let them, give their opinion. I've also heard, there were some opinions in the paper that, the borough is locating too much of it's affordable on the south side of town, maybe disproportionately so. Is it a possibility to put that in the affordable portfolio? Maybe some type of mixed use residential and commercial property there. I think might be a win-win. So
Yeah.
two things actually. You got 8,000 other residents that probably have better ideas. But
No, we like it where we're open to all ideas. The other thing on the Palmer property, I believe we're just going to meet with John Zabo in executive tonight. Just to see the draft of the redevelopment plan, and then we'll have some public opportunity once the council has reviewed it. So yes, we plan on having more involvement of the public as we go through the process and collect opinions. So thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anybody on Zoom? I don't see anybody.
There's one person, but she doesn't have her hand up or anything. That's the picture's on, but that's it.
All right, so then I will close the open session.
Sorry, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Real quick, Greg Friesen, 28 Orchard Hill Road. Just wanted to let the council know that we're 96 days away from opening day for Somerset Hills Ball Club this year, so we're very excited for that. We've started our registration. I'm an active member. of the board and our newest president. So nice to see some familiar faces, but also nice to meet some others. And the new resolution that's part of the master plan that's being looked at for the dugouts, the Fielder's Choice dugouts over at the Rose Bowl is something that I'm very passionate about, something that I've stayed in close, touch with over the last few years as a softball coach myself with my daughter and her friends. And it's something that we're very excited for, and something that as a league we've looked at for a very long time. So if there's obviously any questions, that's why I came tonight. But we've spoken with the rec committee and the environmental commission over the last month and provided some details there on what we think is a good project for all seasons that we use that field, especially starting this spring. Only a few months to go. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, congratulations, Greg, on being president this year.
I got myself into.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on our agenda, right?
Yes.
Yes, I saw your proposal. So, and I believe that's included in our recreation master plan, that project.
It is one of the items,
Yeah.
council immediately put some money in place for these small projects.
Right,
Soon after the master plan was adopted, and, purchasing a lot of things what they are, they still, slow us down, but we're ready to go.
terrific. All right. Okay, anyone else from the public? And I will close the public hearing. Moving on to ordinances. Oh, we have Chad's not on, is he? No, okay, Carolyn, would you like to move the first one?
Sure. I move that ordinance 2023-1941, adjusting the zone district boundary line, which bisects property located at 477-1 Brook Road, block 28, lot 46.01. Be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. Monday, January 23rd, 2023.
I'll second. All right, any discussion? No, we don't have to. Okay, we'll have a public hearing, so.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Christine, let's do the next one.
I move that ordinance 2023-1942, adjusting the zone district boundary line which bisects property located at 70 Stone Fence Road, block 23, lot 15, be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. Monday, January 23rd, 2023.
Second.
All right. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Diane, take it away.
I move that ordinance 2023-1943, ordinance of the Borough of Bernardsville, New Jersey, authorizing the acquisition by purchase or condemnation of the real property located at 210 North Finley Avenue, which consists of a portion of block 125, lot 25, Bernardsville, New Jersey, now owned by Altamar Realty LLC, be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7:00 p.m. Monday, January 23rd, 2023.
Second.
Okay, and this is for our senior housing.
That's correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Jay, take the next one.
I move the ordinance 2023-1944 concerning sewer connection fees and sewer user rates and allocation and amending chapter 16 of the Borough Code entitled Sewer Regulations be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning 7 p.m. Monday, January 23rd, 2023.
Second.
I do have a couple questions on this one.
Uh-huh.
And listen, I know this is just going for the public hearing, and these questions are probably better in the public hearing, but just to raise a couple of issues. I see that the fees have gone up about $15 to $20 per year, which, in and of itself isn't a lot, but it adds up pretty quickly. One of them is about to hit $500, right? And that seems to be pretty significant. I know it's only a handful. I sort of did the math, and I think it's about roughly 50 to 60 residents per year would essentially would be kind of affected by this fee. But I guess my overall question would be, what I guess what I'm trying to get at is I don't want it to become like a shadow tax on residents. And what would the actual connection be, or how much kind of borough time is spent doing the connection? And what's kind of the delta above that? What I'm trying to indirectly maybe figure out is how much burden is it actually putting on residents versus potentially a way that we're just maybe trying to raise revenue in a different manner.
So the revenues from the sewer fund do not support the budget.
It doesn't, okay.
You know, they just support the operation itself. And really just, you know, it's really, not every resident is a utility customer.
Right.
Every utility customer is a resident. But it's supposed to be self-liquidating, plus putting some money aside for capital improvements and emergencies.
Okay.
So we'll review that with the finance committee. But even with this increase, we're staying well below the inflation rate, and we had a number of issues this year where we had to really tap into our capital reserves.
Yeah.
But we'll look at that in more detail with you and be ready for public hearing.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to know, and I did see that it was a 2% increase, which is obviously well below inflation, so I appreciate that. And it might be helpful to see the back about term P&L from last year, how much actually came in versus how much spent at finance committee before voting on utilities.
And here's a fee based on state formula, and the idea is that new connections contribute toward capital improvements that have been made over the years. And like I said, it's a formula set forth in the state statute.
Okay.
Is the state are we considered a utility, and does the same state have any kind of control over utilities from that standpoint?
We're not a utility. Utility is actually a separate entity, like a board of education almost.
Okay, so from a sewer perspective, it's completely within the purview of the town or the borough to make its own decisions on this.
Right. You don't have a board of commissioners or anything
Okay,
like
got
that,
it.
but we set it up as a utility account.
Yeah, for budget.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Can I ask you one more question though? If for some reason we overspent the amount, would we have to use borough funds to, okay, so even though this doesn't go to the borough funds, it would be statutorily obligated to cover the amount?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would just say, because and kudos to this governing body. Sometimes when some towns look at the reserve and it's a difficult financial year, they'll say, well, maybe this year we'll soften the blows by taking some of this reserve, and you know, we've never done that. So to my knowledge, we've always kind of treated that pretty sacredly, that's there for those customers that contribute to it.
Yeah.
And we've never had to make up for a shortage on the sewer.
Not to my
Not that I
knowledge.
know of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
You
you.
remember, Jack, it was a while ago when we put this formula in place.
Yes.
It was probably in the 90s, was it?
Yeah, because before it used to be a complicated formula that
Yeah,
general revenues went to a certain percentage, and so it was made so only the sewer users paid for
right.
the plant.
It used to be, it was part of everybody's tax, and then we broke it out
Yes.
to be a user fee.
Yeah, there was a percentage, I forget what
Yeah.
it was.
Okay, moving on, did we do that?
We didn't vote
We
yet.
didn't vote, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to resolutions. Are there any that we want to discuss separately?
I had a question on the exchange of certain holidays, but I can ask that after we move on this. I don't think we'll be out.
Yeah, I think we do this every year. It's usually
Every year.
to get the Friday after Thanksgiving and trade in which one?
Election day,
Election.
general election day for that day after.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Does the borough office then close day after Thanksgiving? It gets swapped out.
Yeah, because normally you would be closed on election day, but because
Yeah, that's not.
we work on election day.
It doesn't make any sense because.
No. Anthony's got a lot of work to do on election day, so. Yeah. Anything else? No, okay, that's not here. Nope, okay.
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
I move that resolutions 2322 to 2330 be adopted.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amway,
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Ms. Amer,
Yes.
All right. Money report now. Okay, mayor's update fairly short. We had the police breakfast up at Rock Citizens and police awards, which was, I think the foundation, our newly formed foundation paid for it. It was a lovely event. I think the police really appreciated it. And I was amazed at how many awards there were to give out. But, you know, we don't always hear about what the police are doing, the small little acts of courage and, you know, just good communication with our residents and doing important things. So that was really a nice event. We did have our annual municipal court meeting in Bedminster with all the people in our shared court. What came up is they were looking for new ways to try and assess how people contribute. So we'll see where that ends up. We did have the Wreaths Across America, the second time. This was our second annual Wreaths Across America. Thank you to Al, who was there and helped place the wreaths. The scouts helped us out. The veterans were there. We did about 90 wreaths. So that was really a nice event. And if anyone's around this Saturday at 2 o'clock, we have to take all the wreaths off. So, looking for volunteers. I think the scouts are going to help us with that again. I attended the Hanukkah lighting ceremony at King Shopping Center, it was cold that night. It was very cold, but it's really nice that a lot of people came out. They had music, they had activities, so it was a really nice event. I attended the grand opening at Ricky's Thai. If you haven't been there, it's really good. They did a really nice job renovating the inside, so check it out. That's their third. They have one in Skillman, I think, and one in Hillsborough. So this is Ricky's third. For those of you who are interested, this Wednesday at 6:30, we have the Somerset County Governing Officials Association. We are hosting this month's meeting, and I forget who the speaker is. There's a good speaker, and we're swearing in our officer. So it's right here in town at 6:30. Anthony can do a purchase order for you. So let's have a good showing for Bernardsville. And that's all I had. Tom.
Mary, the police drawing shoot was terrific. You know, you don't realize that they don't often get together as a group because they're on 12-hour shifts and,
Yeah.
you know, it's just very difficult. So that's one of the things. And the mission of the foundation, one of them is to improve morale. And I think that hit the nail on the head. So thank you for coming. And I was just also, the only other thing I was going to comment on was the dugouts that's a 50-50 split with the Somerset Baseball League.
Right.
And council gave us the direction to get some of those really small things identified in the plan, cleaned up. Like I'm not sure you would have noticed, but a coach would, that the lid on the infield is gone, you know, like from constantly working out the infield, you push all the dirt and it creates this lid and you can hit a kid in the face or horrible. So that disappeared. A lot of little things are being addressed with council's initial allocation.
Great. That's wonderful. I'm not sure if I have because next I have the council meeting protocol, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is a tough one. Jack had prepared a draft from what our discussions were, and I think what we were talking about is trying to get back to the way we used to meet, which was all in person. I think looking at, you know, the hybrid is a little confusing. We keep getting reports that they couldn't hear, they couldn't see. Sometimes it's difficult when someone's speaking on Zoom and you try and answer them and you can't because you can't talk over the Zoom. Yeah, there's a delay. So we wanted to talk about how to make this work. Because we do get, I think, better attendance on Zoom than we had in person. But sometimes it's difficult and I find it difficult that, people have been speaking and I don't see them, their camera's not on. And so if I run into them in town, I don't even know who they are. Yet I've had a long conversation with them here at the meeting. So, comments, opinions, whatever.
I think that it is difficult to hold an effective meeting when, with the delay, when you don't know who you're speaking to. I think that the public should be able to watch live. And if they want to contribute and be part of the meeting, then they should come in person the way we used to do it.
Like Aaron does every week. So. Yeah.
I think it makes it difficult for us, and it also makes it difficult to communicate with the public doing it that way. That's just
I've had comments from people that try to watch it and they have trouble hearing
yeah.
when someone here is speaking.
Yeah.
And the old way, I don't think we had any problems, so.
With it just being live streamed, yeah. It was much clearer, I think.
So even if we switch the open comments, we would still live stream it.
Yes.
Oh,
People
yeah.
could watch it, so
Yeah.
they know what's going on, and it's gonna be recorded, and it's gonna be on YouTube, right?
Yes.
So at least that will happen. Yeah, listen, I think we all like the concept of the transparency and allowing people to be able to participate anywhere. I do think it's gotten clunky at times. I know I've been disappointed, not from the public, but when presenters to council, like good engineering firms, consultants, kind of like all these advisors to council have tried to do it online, and sometimes you can't see the presentation, you can't hear them, it gets a little bit odd. So I could definitely understand it. I did, had a thought about maybe there's a way we could do almost like just an idea, just throwing it out there in a public session. But maybe you could do preferential treatment for in the room first, or one session for in the room and then another session online. I'm just kind of thinking out loud to sort of try to give people the opportunity. That being said, I think as long as residents can listen and hear everything, I mean, anything we do is never really ever done in one meeting, it's done over multiple meetings. And then we're asking that for kind of in community, amity, the ability to hear things being here live. I would understand that, I think.
One question, if I'm a member of the public and I want to submit comments, I can do so. Can I email comments in for the record if I want to? I'm just curious. I don't.
You can before the meeting, yes, not during the meeting.
Before the meeting.
Before, so similar to like a letter, I mean, we also have
Right.
letters that are packed.
Exactly.
So my thought there is just that, I like the concept of obviously community involvement. But I also agree, I think the meetings have become difficult it's very difficult with a live component. So if the public has the opportunity to come in, make comments, and if they don't want to or are unable to make comments, they also have the ability to write comments and submit those, and those are in the record as well.
Because the agenda's out
Yeah.
early, so everybody
Yeah.
has access to the agenda, it's on the website, so they can write in if they
And-
have a question or a comment.
I'm fairly certain every letter, because I've read them, I'm fairly certain every letter gets sent to you for the council we get, so people have that ability to also have their voice heard if they have. So I would be supportive as well.
Yeah. And I think, we pointed out, is we very rarely make a decision in one meeting.
Right.
Especially on major issues, because if it's an ordinance, it has to
Yeah,
have,
we can't do it.
Right. it has to have at least 2 meetings.
So the
So,
agenda is also out, so everyone has the opportunity to go on the website, look at the agenda, and if there's an item on there that they're interested in commenting on, I mean, we like to have people here.
I know.
So if we decided to move this direction, what would the next step be? We develop
We had a,
I couldn't get a resolution just off the top of my head, so
Right.
feel free to mark it up, change it, and at some point adopt a resolution.
Right, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, if we put it on for the next meeting, then we can hear from the public if they have any
Yes.
significant objection to
Yeah.
this or have other ancillary issues that, we're not identifying here, and I think it gives the council an opportunity to think about it for a couple of weeks
Yeah.
for the next meeting.
yeah,
I mean, I like the inclusion of the phrase or the policy that we can grant a dispensation to anyone if we
Yeah.
want to.
well, if someone
Someone-
is handicapped
Yeah.
or there's an issue, and I think we will still allow council people to be,
But it should.
Yeah, so done, point five.
right,
Yeah.
Existing policy.
so it's, yeah, and anyone that, physically can't get here. We certainly would accommodate that.
Yep.
Just to clarify, Mayor, we can accommodate council members up to a certain number of meetings per
Right.
quarter.
Two, well, two to vote,
That's right.
two,
You can't vote.
yeah,
So that's an ordinance.
yeah, right,
That's right. Not the administrative code.
yeah,
So we'll introduce it next meeting?
yeah. that way-
I just did a resolution,
Yeah.
if it works, we can make it part of the administrative code, but it's probably worth trying out.
Okay, thank you. Next one, we're talking about the reorganization of committees. And thank you, Al, and, for putting, kind of doing all this, compilation of people's opinions and collecting all this data. And we did have a meeting of our little subcommittee of Al, Chad, and myself. And then, we sent out, and I think it's in the packet, did I give it to you? I did give it to Anthony. With, the comments in red, because we ran it by Jack as to what we're allowed to do and what we can't do.
Yes.
So. Anybody having feedback on it? I think,
Maybe just offer a couple comments on it.
sure.
Yes, so I want the public to know why we're kind of heading this way. So, as the mayor said, we had a committee that kind of operationalized a look at our committee governance structure, but then we solicited input from every council member to kind of make sure that we're being mindful of everyone's ideas and all. So, I think like the reasons are, first of all, when we looked at it, there's something like 160 to 180 appointments by council, right? Which represents like a pretty sizable portion of the adult population. And I mean, it's a lot. And so what results is some committees don't meet at all. Some have overlapping remits or areas of responsibility. And then there's also, I think it sucks a lot of time from borough administration and staff providing support to the committees, right? And the committee roles for most of them are actually supposed to be advisory to council, not necessarily advisory to committee staff, right? It's the job of council to set policy and set direction. And so we had, I think, 19 committees, right? 5 of them cannot be touched. They're the statutory committees, or I should say appointments to these committees: Planning Board, Environmental Commission, Board of Adjustments, Board of Health, and the Library Board of Trustees. So, nothing changes at all with them. Right, I was gonna get into, so those are like the statutory committees required by state code. You want to just kind of walk through, since I'm already on, or would be a pause.
Well, I just want to add just one thing. The
Yeah.
other reason I think we did this too was to enhance communication among the committees. So that they're not all kind of working autonomously, so that everybody knows what everybody's doing, or if where we're not repeating the same things, or so, working on the same things without knowing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what we're talking about are the select committees and the committee of the mayor, like the mayoral committee. So it's not any of the statutory ones. I can provide a summary if you think it's helpful, otherwise. Okay. So just kind of walking through it. Probably the most significant is we'd actually move the Trails Committee and the Open Space Committee under Recreation as subcommittees. So we would still ask those to be set subcommittees that report up to Recreation, and Recreation report to Council. We'd ask the Culture and Arts Committee to move under Downtown Bernardsville, since they're leading a lot of our work anyway. So that would sort of be disbanded, not really disbanded, but the engagement there would move under Downtown Bernardsville. we would eliminate the train quiet zone committee. And the reason is that they produced their report, and their findings already. We have that as a council. We haven't accepted that given the cost there, but that they sort of completed their work. To the mayor's point, we cannot touch the fire prevention bureau. We can't touch the green team as well, given that we need that to be able to apply for certain grants. We are recommending a combination of the land use and the downtown revitalization committee into like an economic revitalization committee, considering that they look at similar issues. That's something that we can continue to provide public input, like Aaron has suggested, considering the public members of that committee. And there's a couple of others that we are probably not going to do any combination or elimination with, but we may just want to have a conversation as council. Those ones are the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, which, there was some conversation, is there an overlap there with downtown Bernardsville and other efforts, and the Housing Advisory Committee, which is pretty specific on what they deal with, and so most likely not going to touch that at all. In the end, I think this brings the 14 appointed committees down to 8, which we found was much more manageable aside from the statutory committees. And the last one I didn't mention is shade tree. While shade tree in and of itself is important, we had, we're trying to think through whether that could actually be handled as maybe a subsection of environmental or working directly with borough staff, rather than a separate appointed committee, since all the members there are made up of environmental commission and green team members.
It also has a lot to do with zoning.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so
It does.
they have to go through Renee anyway. So
Yeah, it almost
having
falls
to
under
deal
that.
with Renee is really good stuff.
Correct. Yeah, okay, so that's the summary. We're gonna keep Mayor's Wellness Committee. And I think that's it. So that's what we're proposing right now. Probably have, 95% recommendations with, some input from council.
Okay.
And some of those are created by ordinance, I think we'll go amend
We have to go
that
back.
section of the ordinance.
We're gonna have to go through and
Yes,
revamp them, and which we need to do anyway.
right.
Yeah.
And some of them were created by just ad hoc committees and things. Nothing
Well,
formal.
like, for example, cultural arts, we created that. So we're just going to like eliminate. the
Yeah,
ordinance.
exactly, that's easy.
And that's gonna go in downtown boroughs because the one committee.
Yeah, because they're working on the history in the streets project, which is perfect for what cultural arts should be doing anyway.
So they'll be totally independent of the council.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think the one that was still kind of open was the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. But you said,
It doesn't overlap with anybody.
right,
yeah, you've been on that, so.
Yeah, they don't overlap really with anybody, and Friends of Historic Bernardsville is really a fundraising arm.
okay,
Dumpster Square, it's not. And this also has Dan, who works with the planning board and board adjustments. review.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Historical.
and check that his input has been.
It's been very,
Very
a
helpful.
lot, and that all goes to the Historical Preservation Committee too. Dan sends it all through them before it goes to the planning board, and we approve all his correspondence like that.
Okay, good.
And they essentially handle dumpster square.
Yeah,
The council delegated
I know.
everything to them. with
Yeah,
dumpster square.
and they're doing a great job. I mean, they've gotten so much in grants. It's incredible what they've been able to accomplish.
One item that I had a discussion with Tom about was the asking the committees meet during business hours and understanding the balance that the town the professionals have to maintain along with this board's ability to be able to volunteer to attend meetings and that type of thing. And so I think one of the things that we need to think about as we go through this, and I don't think this year is necessary, but maybe next year is looking at, I think this year we should try to figure out how we can make the master plan for when meetings occur from the standpoint of making sure that we can do it during the professionals' working time, and the council people on that committee can also attend. I'm speaking somewhat for myself because it's difficult for me to. I can't commit to an 11 a.m. Wednesday meeting. There's just no way it would work. But at the same time, I don't want to hire a borough administrator or frankly expect that any of the council, the borough professionals are working at 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday when that's not their role. So we're gonna have to figure out how to balance that out, and it might make sense for next year to have that meeting cadence set, so that as people on council are volunteering, they realize what they're volunteering for, what they're committing to. Obviously, and also the people that are on those committees, whether they're council meetings or any of the meetings. And I'm quite certain that like things like environmental commission, when I've asked people to participate on that one, they ask when, and we have a set time, so it's just a matter of.
Yeah.
cadence.
I think that there's like two sections of this. There's the what and the how. But I just read as the what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think you have to think through the how, because like, and Christine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, when we were talking, she was also articulating that like, we should clean up how they were talking on the website, be very clear in how they're serving residents, you had suggested, so it's like a really clear, almost like a mission statement, so residents specifically know by that committee, like, you can add to that, but.
Well, I recall like researching this a few years ago to see like what committees are other towns are using. And one of them that stuck in my head was a town in New Jersey that has a quality of life committee. And, that obviously that term covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So basically, the committee is committed to improving people's quality of life. So my thinking is like, we do have all these committees and all of them contribute to making the quality of life here better. But we want to just kind of be specific as to in what way. So like for rec, it's obviously getting out and enjoying the outdoors and the open spaces. So then you have open space. So that's why those kind of go together. So I just feel like if the mission statement can somehow include what their mission is in terms of how are they making Bernardsville quality of life better.
I also think we have to have, when they meet on there.
Oh,
So if somebody wants to, potentially find a committee to volunteer for, they have to know that we.
Well, so then we also talked about the skills bank form,
That needs to be there.
that process is kind of old.
Yeah.
That like a Google form.
Yep.
And instead of
I don't like that.
faxing in a paper, with the residents and the name itself.
For most of the committees, nobody really needs to have a skill. Some of them Board of Adjustment.
I mean, it's nice to know.
Obviously.
Yeah,
But I don't think that.
Yeah, it should just be a volunteer.
Yeah,
registration.
You're right. It feels kind of, it might be also.
It's intimidating.
Yeah.
What they don't have is, so I can't serve on that committee, and that's really just not true.
and a lot of them, especially this past year, were younger kids, so how are we gonna ask them for a resume?
Yeah.
They're in high school. So we should take that requirement off.
Yes,
I just wanted to clarify, what Councilman Hamlin was mentioning daytime meetings. Our suggestion was that was for those council committees, not all the committees in the town.
right. Yeah.
It's the ones where.
Well, and so a lot of the other committees don't have staff on them, like other than recreation, like environmental doesn't have staff,
Well,
mayor's wellness doesn't have staff, so, but, yeah, we were talking about council committees, because then you have, Doug and John and. And like housing meets on Fridays at 3:30. When we have a hard time getting volunteers at the time,
But that's to accommodate, Renee
Renee.
and her group there.
And I'm not saying it has to be written in stone, just if there's an understanding that when scheduling, we will try to prioritize during the day, but if it's just not possible, it's not possible.
Yeah. Even if it's lunchtime or, right at the end of the day, so.
Well, and borrowing from like experiences that I work with an international team, you need to be cognizant of the fact that of what your impact is. If you always schedule a meeting at the same time, you might have someone on weekly on meetings at 11 o'clock their time, right? Everybody should share the burden a bit. And I think I think we have a healthy, we do that in a good way here, but I think we need to be more cognizant of that fact that Tom may be on meetings every day, or his staff may be on meetings when I'm not, I'm thinking about the meetings I can't make during the week. So I think if we kind of balance that out, it'll work fine.
Stephen.
Yeah. Okay. So Jack, what do we need to do next?
Yeah, I think we need to
Work on it.
define what we want to do, and then, like I said, look at the ordinance and,
Yeah,
make changes where appropriate.
I think we just got good direction, so we can clean that up.
Yeah,
What
because
I
we
walked through and
haven't
send it to you.
technically haven't appointed people yet on these other groups.
And I'll send, maybe I'll, put together a draft ordinance for discussion initially.
But when we're doing that though, we will be pointing to people to.
Would be
Well,
the
based
new
on
construct.
the new construct, we have to create the new form before we put people on.
No, I mean, liaison positions.
Oh, based on the new one, yeah.
I do like the form, the report,
Yeah, I like that
which
too.
can also be like a PDF that they sign electronically.
Yeah, we could make it a Google form. That was, I used that at, when I was at school business administrator, and used it for board.
Yeah, that's good.
meetings.
I like that a lot.
It's simple, it's just the basic stuff. So,
Keep an eye on everybody.
yeah. It's simple.
So when, do we have any idea when this is all gonna be ready for prime time?
Hopefully next week.
Hopefully, well,
Yeah,
well,
draft ordinance together next meeting.
If it's ordinance, then it would be the 23rd, and then the meeting after, it has to be on two.
That's right, we have,
right.
we have
So by the end
introduction
of the
and
month.
public hearing.
Okay,
But I think, but that's just is that the ordinance for each one of these?
He's gonna review, and some might be resolutions, some might be ordinances,
Yeah.
he'll let us know.
some will be easy, some will take a.
Because some of those ordinances right now are so convoluted, they need to be cleaned
I
up.
was thinking I may try to make it one big ordinance and just list it. And
Yeah.
some things will be universal.
Yeah,
Because it's,
rather than repeating
It's
and repeating.
crazy.
Yeah.
but some of them have like this, that we have class A, class B, class C. Now, I understand that in planning board, but HPAC really,
Well, HPAC came from
Environmental.
the statute creating historic preservation commissions. So initially,
so that was from a commission, but it's an
it
advisory.
was never a commission, but those people who were pushing for a commission, the council didn't want to have commission, because commissions have a lot of power. So they made it a committee, but they retract the language of the state statute for
Maybe we
historic
can
preservation
not.
commissions.
Where we can change it and do it.
But you have total discretion in advisory committees.
Because
so-
that's not necessary to do
Yeah.
for that.
But that was the idea, to try to make it parent historic preservation commissions without the power.
Okay. Yeah. So if you can start working on that, and I'll be happy to,
Yeah.
review anything with you or help you out on anything.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's more than 2 days.
Yeah. Okay. Got through that pretty quickly. I don't believe we have any correspondence. Any unfinished business? Any new business? We're good, okay. So, that was a resolution, we did that, correct? Yeah, okay,
Very excited for that one.
Yeah.
Great. I can't-
they do, yeah. So when do you plan on this first spring, are you starting it now?
We're hopeful that they can be delivered to a warehouse of one of the board members in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and
Wow.
we'd love to, April 15th, tax day is when we hang up, so I'd love to, have them for opening day.
Yeah,
Thanks for all your work on it.
yeah, we'll have to do a really cutting.
Absolutely, hey, yes, absolutely.
I love doing research.
Christine's gonna throw the first pitching.
Yeah.
For softball game. Well, thank you.
All right,
Motion to move to executive session?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, those for your attendance.
We're not having that, right?
We will not be returning to public, so.
This one, I have to move some, people
Okay.
to the room.